All right, we have breaking news on a Fox News alert. All takeoffs and landings have been halted at Reagan National Airport, just outside of Washington, D.C. We're monitoring an apparent emergency situation in the Potomac River near the airport, where, according to local reports, an aircraft may have crashed. Joining us now at the very latest, our very own Kevin Cork. Kevin, what's the latest?
Sean, I know you have flown into DCA a number of times, many times throughout your career. And as you know, when you come into Washington, particularly if you're coming in along the Potomac River, it can be a bit of a windy alley, to say nothing of the fact that we're talking about a fairly short porch to about 6,800 feet for that runway. Now, we're not certain if that was a factor in tonight's event. We do know this, that there are fireboats that have been dispatched responding to a small aircraft crash or Sean, a collision with a helicopter. That's just some of the preliminary information that we are getting at this hour. As you see the live pictures from our Fox affiliate, Channel 5 here in Washington, WTTG, you can see an enormous response right along the Potomac River there. Now, there are conflicting reports, Sean, so I want to be careful as I share some of these details. Again, information changes minute by minute. There have been some reports that there could be dozens of individuals in the water. There have been other reports that fireboats have been dispatched and have been pulling survivors from the water. It is nearly February, and so, of course, that means that the water is extremely cold. It adds to the precarious nature of the circumstance that we are all witnessing here in Washington. There is a fairly high number of aircraft that come in and out of Reagan during the evening. A lot of Congress personnel, a lot of Capitol Hill personnel come in and out of town late after visiting their districts. And so this is a very active airport throughout the day, but in particular in the evenings. So we're not certain exactly what happened here, Sean. I'm watching, as are you, everything that we can get from D.C. Fire and Emergency Medical Services. At last check, DCA, Reagan National, has been in a full hold, a complete travel halt for the time being. Now, usually that's precautionary, and then eventually they will re-allow aircraft to come in and out of the airport. Now, if that's the case, we could be double-checking that at the top of the hour. Generally, that's when they make these assessments. But as of this moment, we have a full ground stop in effect at Reagan National, a possible aircraft collision between an aircraft, a fixed-wing aircraft, a plane, and possibly a helicopter. That was one report. We also have a separate report, Sean, as I mentioned, that it's just the one aircraft that went down. Now, I did mention a number. It's a fairly large number. There have been some reports as many as 60 people could have been involved in the downing of this aircraft, and that means we could be looking at possibly dozens of individuals, both alive and possibly perished in the water. It is cold. It is dangerous. And as you see, a massive response. We're keeping an eye on it. And, of course, as I get more information, Sean, I'll pass it along to you.
Did I hear you right that there may be, you're hearing a report, as many as 60 people?
Yes, 60, which would be a terrible shock. And that's the real issue. When you see a response like that, naturally, regardless of the size of the aircraft, you would expect a massive response. But when you see fireboats in the water immediately, and there have been, again, some reports that it could be dozens of people, needless to say, all hands on deck tonight here in Washington.
And I do need to remind the audience, after 9/11/01, a lot of private planes are no longer allowed to land at Reagan Airport, and they are diverted. People go to Dulles instead, which means the odds of it being a commercial flight of some kind are much higher, I would argue, just based on the rules that changed after